Michelle Wu. I'm one of the co-founders and co-executive director of Four Freedoms. We are a remote, artist-run organization dedicated to deepening and increasing civic engagement. Our work looks like many different things. It can be resourcing, supporting, funding, curating specific projects. It looks like developing arts-based curriculum. It looks like collaborative partnerships across institutions, across organizations, across geographies. It looks like national campaigns, geographic or regional public art. We're probably mostly known for our billboards. So we started out as a kind of a political stunt during the 2016 election season, where we pretended to be political operatives, and we started a super PAC and used the funds that we raised to purchase and activate public space, primarily billboards and other kinds of public canvases like bus stop benches, kiosks, etc., activating it with art and art messaging. I think one of the superpowers of art is that when you call something art, it automatically creates spaciousness for multiple perspectives, multiple points of view. When you call something political, people automatically assume who you are and what you're about. It invites curiosity, it challenges us to question what we think we know, and I think it reminds us that we all were born with imaginations, and that everything we do in life is a creative, but also a political act. We're all born with imaginations, and most of us can look back to a time when we were a child where everything felt possible. And actually, I met an incredible artist and educator this week by the name of Jane Sapp, who said that what art does is that it creates space for possibility. But for many reasons, including our education system and our economic system, we are kind of conditioned to not be creative. We're really conditioned and told that productivity is the priority. And so I think making art is an act of remembrance. I think it also, it can feel inaccessible to people because we are conditioned to be productive more so than we are encouraged to be creative, critical thinkers, right? We're told to grow up, go to school, memorize facts, get a job, make a living. And the creative fields are they're sort of described as, you know, the crazy thing to do, the impractical thing to do. But I think that there's a balance that can be struck that art and collaboration can, again, reintroduce. But in terms of the accessibility piece, I think that it can feel kind of scary because art is about uncertainty. It's not about prescription. It's not about telling you what to think or what to do. And in most areas of our life, we are told what to think and what to do, whether it's at our job or whether it's by our media. And so there is some discomfort in not having the answer, and also knowing that there are so many answers, and that meaning over time is evolved, or can evolve rather. When we talk about building a representative and inclusive, reparative democracy, we need to be creative. And something that a friend of mine reminded me of, we were sitting around and talking about how a lot of people think that making art feels like a luxury, right? It feels maybe not productive or not what we should be doing to address the moment. But he reminded me that we're living in someone's imagination right now. And so we actually need to tap back into our imaginations in order to build the future that we want to see. I think at the heart of art is human stories. And what art can do is create space for us to humanize and see one another. So they make the experiences of others more recognizable and more connected to our own experience, even if on paper it may not seem that way. I think it's one thing to be told a bunch of facts and a bunch of data, And it's another thing to really experience something emotionally and creatively that it can't really be taught, and it can't be explained sometimes in language, particularly because we speak so many different languages. So art is an opener for us to more easily see one another in our respective and in our mutual shared humanity. Art is also really fun, and it's beautiful. And when we look at our movements historically, art has played such a central role in reimagining what the future could look like, but also really giving expression visually, giving expression through song, through dance, through all the mediums, giving it expression that people can relate to in so many different ways. And in many cases, giving it voice, because the image, because the song, because the story is so moving, is so powerful, and is so beautiful. There's something about the power of art and its ability to transcend the ugliness of what we're dealing with. I think it gets to the root and to the heart of who we are, and the fact that ultimately we all kind of want the same things, which is acknowledgement. We want to be seen and heard. We want safety and love and belonging. I think that art is a natural opener. I don't actually really consider myself an organizer, although I find myself in these spaces quite often recently. But what I've noticed from organizers is this real feeling of both grappling with the immediacy and the urgency of the moment, right? Like the real challenge around playing defense because of the onslaught of this administration from all directions. So it can feel difficult or even impossible to imagine anything beyond getting through the day. And so I think that's what artists can offer, is that spaciousness to think beyond today in spite of how difficult that might be in reality. And I think art also creates space for hope too, when things are feeling impossible. You know, I've had moments myself of feeling utter despair. I've spoken with a lot of organizers over the past few months around this feeling of despair. But, you know, you first have to imagine something before it can be real. And so, yeah, art is just a reminder that there is something beyond this. And we can create it if we work together. I would encourage funders and also artists to relate to each other differently. The relationship can feel quite transactional. It can feel quite project or program specific, but behind all the really wonderful work is a person. And something that I actually learned from one of our close partners and funders is the power that seeing the artist as a full person, like what that can do to support a creative practice, and can also bring folks in community to one another. And something that we also do is we look to our funders for thought and strategic support. So yes, the funds, super helpful, but also how can we bring you in? How can we introduce how we think about things, how we're approaching things? I think that the more kind of open and transparent we can be with one another, I think the more informed all the parties will be in terms of how to be in relationship. Speaking with other artists that I know and am in community with, that can be a scary thing, to be vulnerable in front of a funder, to tell a funder, you know, I don't have all the answers you're looking for. Like, it's not how the creative process works. It can feel risky, but I've noticed that when given the opportunity, I think funders too are looking for that deeper connection with the people that they're supporting.